There's a reason warriors rise before the sun, why monks repeat the same movements for years, why the masters don't chase time, they shape it, because reality is not what it seems. Most people live in just two dimensions, thought and action. They wake up, react, perform, repeat. But there are two more layers, silent ones that change everything. Emotional energy, timeless awareness. These are not ideas, they are forces, invisible but real. And when you learn to move through all four, the entire field of your life begins to shift. In this teaching, I will guide you through the four dimensions of thinking, how Shaolin wisdom approaches them, how modern people ignore them, and how the great masters operate from all four at once. You'll understand why the body must move before the mind can still, why clarity isn't about thinking more, but thinking less, why emotion isn't weakness, but power in its rawest form, and why stillness is not the end, but the control room of reality itself. You will also learn something few speak about, how monks interact with time, not conceptually, but literally, how training alters their perception of it, how silence expands it, how devotion bends it. By the end, you will not only think differently, you'll see differently. And that is the beginning of change. This is not theory, this is daily practice. And if you stay with me until the end, something in you will shift. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. Subscribe and walk this path with us. There's a kind of silence that only comes after a storm, the kind that settles over the mountains when the wind has burned itself out. That's the mind we train for. Still, clear, deep. Most people never touch that silence. Their thoughts move like birds in a cage, flapping, crashing, restless, always reacting, always filling the space. They wake up with noise, go to sleep with noise, and wonder why peace never arrives. In Shaolin, we don't seek to control every thought. We learn to step behind them, to see them arise, pass, dissolve, like ripples on water. A student once came to me and said, "Shifu, my mind is full of confusion. I keep thinking, trying to fix it, but it grows worse." I said to him, "You are trying to clear the water by stirring it." The mind cannot be cleared by more thinking. It clears itself when you stop fighting it, when you breathe, sit, observe. You see, thoughts are not the enemy, they're like weather patterns. But if you build your life on the storm, you'll always be running. If you build it from the stillness beneath, your actions become precise. Your emotions stop hijacking you, your energy returns. When the mind becomes like still water, reality begins to reflect back something different. You see with accuracy. You speak with less waste. You move with direction. It's not about more ideas. It's about space between them. Because in that space there is power, quiet power. And from that quiet, real decisions arise. Not from fear, not from chaos, but from alignment. This is what it means to think cleanly. Not fast, not clever, but clean. Like a sword that's been sharpened in silence. A thought alone is a whisper. It holds shape but no weight. Like a seed resting in dry earth, it has the potential but not the power. Emotion is what makes it grow. In the Shaolin tradition, emotion is not seen as weakness, it's seen as fire. Left wild, it burns the house down. But trained, it cooks the meal, warms the body, forges the blade. A young monk once asked, "Master, should I avoid anger?" The reply was simple. "No, you should know it so well that it obeys you." Anger, when suppressed, rots. When expressed recklessly, it harms. But when transmuted, it becomes strength. Not loud, not violent, just grounded, direct, unstoppable. The same is true for fear. Fear can cripple, but it also sharpens the senses, makes you still, teaches you caution. When fear is seen clearly, it becomes awareness. Shaolin does not teach emotional denial. It teaches emotional refinement. Like taking raw ore and forging steel. When your emotions serve your intention, life begins to respond. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You stop moving in conflict with yourself. You stop leaking energy. Desire becomes focus. Joy becomes fuel. Sadness becomes depth. This is not easy work. It's not fast, but it's the path. The warrior doesn't just master the sword. He masters what moves his hand. This is the inner training most people never begin, because it doesn't look like power. It feels like silence, like patience, like breathing through fire instead of running from it. But once it's done, once your emotions flow in the direction of your purpose, everything around you begins to shift, not by force, but by natural alignment. And that's when reality listens. Most people live their whole lives inside the noise of their bodies, their thoughts, their emotions. They chase comfort, overthink choices, react to feelings as if they were commands. But beyond all of this, there is something else, something older, something quieter. Shaolin calls it the observer. Not a voice, not a thought, just awareness, still, silent, unshaken. It watches without judgment. It sees without interference. When you begin to recognize it, not as a concept, but as a direct experience, something shifts. The mind doesn't spin as fast. The body stops grasping. Emotion loses its grip. Time itself slows down. It's like stepping out of the river and standing on the bank. You still see the current. You still feel its pull. But now you're not drowning in it. You are watching it pass. And from this place, you don't react. You respond. You don't guess. You know. In Shaolin training, this awareness is sharpened through silence, repetition, and breath. Not to escape the world, but to step deeper into it, without being swallowed by it. When you train the observer, you gain space. And in that space, your choices become clean, free from compulsion, free from fear. There was a master who once said, "The one who sees clearly moves slowly, not because he is unsure, but because he doesn't waste. Every movement is placed. Every word has weight. Every act carries presence." This is not about perfection. It's about presence. And presence is a power the world does not understand. You don't need to control everything. You need to see everything. From the place behind the thoughts, from the stillness underneath the doing. That is where real life begins. Not as a reaction, but as a command. Life becomes a loop when awareness is missing. People wake up, go through the motions, make decisions from the same tired thoughts and half-felt emotions. Then they wonder why nothing changes. They move and think but never stop long enough to feel what's underneath. They solve problems without sensing the patterns that created them, and so they repeat. This is why ancient teachings speak of stillness before action, observation before decision, feeling before speaking. Without this depth, life stays shallow, even if it looks full on the outside. Many people live in two dimensions, doing and thinking. They're productive, intelligent, capable, but they lack emotional clarity. They ignore presence, so their energy stays scattered and their vision stays clouded. No matter how much they do, the path keeps circling back. To think in 4 dimensions means you begin to feel deliberately. You let emotion rise, not to be ruled by it, but to understand it. You let thoughts come, not to obey them, but to see where they lead. You move the body, not for outcome, but for mastery. And you sit in awareness, not to escape, but to see. This doesn't mean you leave the world. It means you stop being trapped by it. You handle life while holding the bigger view, like a warrior who walks through the battlefield without losing his inner stillness. In Shaolin, we don't speak of rising above as leaving the world behind. We speak of rising above by seeing through. You no longer get caught in the surface of things. You move from the center, calm, clear. This is how the cycle ends, not by doing more, but by seeing deeper. And when you see deeper, your next step becomes obvious, effortless, precise, true. Time, for most people, feels like a current pulling them forward, too fast, never enough, always slipping through their hands. They race through days, measure worth in hours, and speak of lost time like a thief took it from them. But monks don't run from time. They enter it. When a monk sits in meditation, he's not waiting for something to happen. He's stepping into the present with such depth that time begins to unfold. A single breath becomes an entire experience. A moment stretches, widens, deepens. In that space, nothing is rushed. Nothing is wasted. This is the 4th dimension, not a place, but a way of being. The surface world moves quickly, but underneath, everything slows. You begin to move differently, speak more carefully, walk as if each step matters, because it does. There's an old story of a master who swept the same courtyard for 40 years. When asked why, he said, "Because each stroke reveals how I'm living." That's the essence. Presence turns repetition into revelation. Most people move reactively, trying to save time, but they lose presence, and without presence, time owns you. But when you enter time through stillness, you reclaim it. One task, fully done, holds more power than 100 rushed ones. This doesn't mean life becomes slow, it becomes precise. You stop chasing moments and begin to shape them. Time obeys the one who honors it. And honoring time doesn't mean counting it, it means entering it completely, through the breath, through the body, through the moment. That's where discipline and peace finally meet, not in doing more, but in doing fully. Presence isn't something you can grab. It's not a switch you flip or a state you visit by accident. It's something you build slowly, patiently, like sharpening a blade that's been dull for years. You don't chase presence, you train it. Shaolin teaches to begin with the breath, not because it's spiritual, but because it's real. It's always there, always honest. The breath reveals everything, the tension, the fear, the wandering mind. And it offers something just as valuable, a way back. Every inhale is a return. Back to the body, back to this moment. Every exhale is a letting go of thoughts, of pressure, of whatever isn't needed right now. No need to fight the mind. No need to silence it. Just return, again and again. At first it feels impossible. The mind runs wild, loud, impatient. But with time, a shift begins. You stop being inside the thought and start watching it. A small space opens between stimulus and response, and in that space, your power returns. This is where discipline becomes sacred. Sitting still when the mind resists, breathing slowly when the world demands speed, returning to presence not once, but 1,000 times. That's the true beginning of freedom. Not the freedom to do anything, but the freedom to not be dragged by everything. A monk doesn't train to escape life. He trains to remain steady within it. And that steadiness begins here, in the quiet, rhythmic, humble work of observing the breath. Not as a technique, as a way of living. Because the breath never lies, and presence never hurries. It arrives only through attention, and it stays only when you've earned it. There's a quiet kind of power that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It simply enters the room, and everything begins to shift. Not because of words, not because of action, but because of presence. When you are still inside, the outer world feels it. People sense more than they understand. They respond to subtle signals, the calm in your voice, the steadiness in your movements, the space you carry. You don't have to explain yourself. Your energy does the speaking. In Shaolin training, the goal isn't to dominate the world, it's to stop being thrown around by it. Stillness isn't laziness, it's alignment. It means your mind isn't leaking energy. Your emotions aren't spilling over. Your actions rise from a deep, steady place. And when that happens, the world begins to organize itself around you. Not because you push harder, but because you interfere less. Panic fades. Force becomes unnecessary. You move like water, soft but unstoppable. There's an old saying, do not chase the horse. Tend the land and the horse will come. This is how stillness works. You don't chase outcomes. You cultivate the inner field, and then what's meant for you arrives because it recognizes the signal. This isn't about waiting. It's about readiness. You become available to life, not desperate for it. There's no need to rush, convince, or prove. You simply become rooted, and in that rootedness, you become magnetic. The world moves quickly. Most people get swept up in its current. But the few who remain still, they change the current. Not with force, with depth, with presence, with the kind of energy that doesn't grab attention but holds it. It may sound reversed to say the body thinks and the mind feels, but only because most have forgotten how deeply the two are connected. In Shaolin training, the body is not just muscle and movement, it becomes a vessel of wisdom. Through repetition, hardship, breath, and stillness. The body learns things the intellect never could. The body remembers what the mind forgets. It holds rhythm, pattern, presence. A well-trained body doesn't hesitate. It responds with precision. It moves without noise. This is why monks train the same form again and again, not to master the movement, but to dissolve the barrier between action and awareness. At the same time, when the mind becomes quiet, it stops trying to calculate everything, and something else begins to rise: intuition. A kind of knowing that doesn't come from logic, but from alignment. You feel the right action, you sense what's needed. It doesn't shout, it simply appears, clean and clear, like a reflection in still water. This union of body and mind, of discipline and silence, is the essence of Shaolin mastery. You're no longer pulled in different directions. Thought says one thing, emotion another, the body something else. But now, they move as one. This is the difference between control and unity. Control requires effort. Unity flows. When the mind listens, the body speaks. When the body is steady, the mind rests. Nothing is wasted. Everything becomes one movement. You stop being at war with yourself. You stop second-guessing. There is no more delay between knowing and doing. And in that space, without hesitation, without confusion, you begin to move through life like a blade through water. Precise, whole, clear. There's a point where knowledge stops being useful. You can read every book on stillness, watch every teaching on presence, but none of it will carry you across. The shift doesn't happen in conversation. It happens in silence, in repetition. It begins when no one is watching, when the room is quiet, when you're sweeping the floor not to finish the task, but to feel each stroke, when you return to the breath not once, but again and again, until it becomes the thread that holds your attention to the present. Monks don't seek extraordinary moments. They take ordinary ones and press into them until the sacred is revealed. Boiling water, walking apart, folding ropes. It isn't the act, it's the quality of attention behind it. That's where the training lives. Discipline is not punishment, it's devotion. You do the same thing every day, not because it's exciting, but because it's real. There's no illusion in sweeping a floor. There's no escape in breathing, only what's here. And in facing what's here without distraction, something changes. The mind resists it at first. It wants results, drama, progress. But the deeper part offers none of that. Only rhythm, stillness, humility. And through that something begins to settle inside you. The chaos fades. The seeking stops. This is the part most skip because it looks like nothing. But that nothing is the gate. That silence is the teacher. Every great master walked this path. Not by force, not by brilliance, by surrendering to the ordinary until it became luminous. In the end, it's not the technique that transforms you. It's your willingness to meet the moment fully again and again until presence becomes your nature, not your goal. The way forward isn't outside you, it's within, layer by layer. You begin with the body, because action grounds you. You calm the mind, because clarity guides you. You refine emotion, because it fuels your direction. And you enter presence, because that's where true power lives. This isn't something you understand once and move on. It's something you return to daily, quietly, with patience. The more you practice, the less you chase. Life stops being something to manage and becomes something you shape, gently but deliberately. Thinking in 4 dimensions means you stop living from fragments. You become whole, still in chaos, clear in confusion, awake in every breath. So start small, be consistent. Sweep the floor with presence, breathe with awareness. Listen to your thoughts without being pulled by them. Over time, something deeper will begin to move through you. Thank you for walking this path with us. If this teaching brought you peace, strength, or clarity, we invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Shaolin Soulfire. May your steps be steady. May your presence grow strong.